Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. It's better than normal and as good as it'll always be with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers.
Greetings and blessings to all y'all out there, and we always hope that you're doing as well as possible. And, we always pray that you will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings of the universe. And our dear friend Robert has a wonderful stuff to share with us tonight. And it's nice to be here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I always got good stuff to share, and it's glad that you're here because it's always a good show when you show up. So we're good. We're good.
And
Excellent.
and what number is it now? What are we up to?
107.
Wow.
Yeah, everyone that's like, once you hit that 100 mark, it just seems like, wow, we've been doing this for a while.
107 shows.
I had my buddy asking, why are you always doing the Indian show? And I says, well, I had to give him a reason. And I says, listen, he says, you're more of a cowboy. What are you talking about Indians for? And I said, well, because they're interesting. Their stories and their myths and their legends and their things they do weren't
Their
tainted.
culture.
Yeah, it's a culture, but it wasn't quite tainted by the white man. Not like the Christian religion, or not like any of the other religions, messed with or the king came in and, put his foot down and says, this is what everybody's going to believe. This is what they're all going to do. On Fridays, they're all going to eat cake. And on Saturdays, they're all going to eat drumsticks, And this is the law of the land, and everybody's going to obey. And if you think otherwise, off with your head. Right? And there was none of that.
Right. Well, I have some Christian friends who have, they're Christian friends of mine. And as I've been talking to them about basically the law of one and using some of the cards, and they are, what? An animal card sometimes explains more than a Bible passage to them. They have related to them. And it's like, I didn't know that Native Americans and their connection with the animals and what they represent, and they were like, they're on board, And so I remember that the powwows that I've been to, they always said a Christian prayer.
Mm-hmm.
But then afterwards, they always said a prayer to the Creator. Mm-hmm. So they recognize both. Okay, there's a Christian God. Yep, and they're religious about it. Then they do one to the Creator.
Yeah. Well, like it says, it's it balances out. So it's not. It hasn't been that long, and then they've lost all of their. How should I say? We've lost all that information. Even though it's been hundreds of years, it's still floating around. But it's hard to go back in time. Some of these religions or some of these things, or say we're going to go back to Egyptian times or Mesopotamian times and find out about the Sumerians. Well, you really can't, so well, because people don't speak that language anymore. It's gone. The people are gone. The all the stuff that they have there is just monuments, or when we do find writings or scraps of something, people have to cipher through it and try to figure it all out, because none of those people are left to tell the story. And because, so then you got scientists trying to figure all these things out and tell you what they find and what these people believed and how they acted and what they ate and how they functioned and what their civilization was like. Well, do these scientists know? Heck no. But, you can you can find a Native American and ask them, or you can read a book, or because people lived back then. Uh, they were taking pictures of famous chiefs who lived 150 years ago that were still living on the plains, like you know, like wild, like they lived for hundreds of years, you know. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Is we're losing this little bit, but
Well, um,
let's get on
I
it while we
haven't
can.
I haven't seen any powwows like they were before COVID, which is a
Uh-huh.
shame.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that this year, in the spring, there's a place in South Georgia that's right on the Florida border. And I've been to it several times, and I'm hoping that they've got a powwow because my buddy said something the other day, and he goes, "I think I'm ready to go to a powwow," and I said, "In the spring." So,
Yeah.
but what was it? Where was I headed with that? Um, so there hasn't been as much dancing, you know,
Uh-huh.
in being reverent to Mother Earth, because the drum is the heartbeat of Mother Earth,
Hmm.
and the dance is not to worship her, but the dance is to show that you dance with the drum,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that you tune yourself to Mother Earth with the dance and the drum. So, but anyway, and everybody can dance in their own way, um, and it's all sacred.
Hmm. Speaking of dance, and I have it's kind of funny because I was just reading the story, and I was going to make that the topic of the show today, but it didn't pan out. But it was a story about Chicago, believe it or not. I don't know how many people have been to Chicago, but this was in the early days of Chicago, and it was the I forget what it was, the Potawatomis and the Blackfeet, or whatever, were this was going to be their last time in Chicago, and this was in the 1820s or something like that, or early 1830s or something. I can't remember. I don't have the book. It's in the library, and so they could have, this was going to be the last dance, and because they always celebrated in this spot of Chicago. And now that Chicago was white man territory, meant no more would they dance there. So this was the last time. And so they danced night and day, and the drums beat, and the Indians danced down the streets and up the streets, and everywhere. They were sweating profusely, and they danced in front of people's houses, and the drums were beating, it said, and the women were, they would yell, and the women, the faint women would faint. They'd watch them through the windows, and everybody was terrified of them. They thought, oh my God, they're screaming and yelling, pounding those drums. Nobody knew what to think of it. They just couldn't believe it. And that's kind of where I ended the story. I couldn't finish the whole thing. I fell asleep.
Well, that's interesting, though.
Yeah, but
They dance through the streets, but
yeah, like I said, this is the last one they're ever going to be able to have, and they knew it. And they were going to make it a good one. So but anyway.
Yeah, what I think you were saying earlier, that the cultures. One thing that I have learned over the years is my shaman in training is that, having grown up Catholic and Christian, and having read the Bible and studied that, and having found my God with Jesus, I found that there was always a little something more with the Native Americans, and how they were in touch with the Creator and all the animals, because the Bible doesn't really, some of that, oh, you can't, if you were, they considered it worshiping the animals, and it's like, no, 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 it's that you were, it's in reverence to the animals, and you don't um, worship them at all or whatever. And go, wow, there goes Coyote. I better keep an eye out for something might be coming up. Might should be careful. And somebody said, "Oh, you draw cards," and I said, "Yeah." And I said, "But the cards aren't necessarily trying to tell you the future. They're trying to explain to you that, hey, slow down, or maybe you should pick up something here." It's not about fortune telling like tarot or something. So that's the reason why, after all these years of trying tarot and all these other mediums, I find that the medicine cards really do make sense, and that they have given people a good, a little insight for themselves, a guidance, I guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so with that, I think it's always spiritual, and the Creator always sends us messages.
Yes.
And I
It's a,
think
it's a, it's a,
go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm yakking too much.
I was going to say it's a suggestion, or
Yep.
maybe like a slight point in that direction, like you should look over there. But you got the free will to do whatever you want. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. That's all what a card is. It's giving you a suggestion, not saying this. Hey, wake up. This is what you should do. If you don't do this, bad things will happen.
Yeah. Or like some of them are to beware. You know,
Yeah. Yes.
keep an
Exactly.
eye out. If you're fox or something, or maybe if you're wolf, maybe what you're supposed to be doing is sharing some knowledge, or maybe you need to go out and look for some. But but anyway, yeah, they're not uh, path. Let's say they're pathways, short pathways to keep yourself out of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
don't run into that wall. There's Coyote. Oh crap! you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. When you can learn from these, just like anything else. They're guides to manage your life in a better way. Hey, remember, don't do that. Remember that story about Coyote? Oh, or remember what happened with Turtle? And it's like, well, instead of doing that, I'll take that advice. So anyway, okay, back to where I'm going with all this.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the Cheyenne. And I found this stuff very interesting, so I thought I would share it with all of you. Of course, I have pictures. Where did the Cheyenne come from in the first place? Let me do my YouTube magic here, and we can get this going. But anyway, share screen. Higher screen, yes. Okay, so here we go. And the Cheyenne were Plains Indians. Believe it or not, before the horse, they lived in down by the Mississippi, the lower Mississippi area, and like Missouri and Arkansas, areas of that sort. But as the horse came into play in the 1700s, they became Plains Indians. And as you can see, if you notice on this map, it says Northern Cheyenne and Northern Arapaho and Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho. And these people they started out, they went up north, and one group of them inhabited the Black Hills, South Dakota, Nebraska area, and then the other group split off eventually and went down into the Kansas, Oklahoma areas. Now, if that doesn't amaze you, let me show you a better picture of, and now we have, this is what they live in today. Out of all that territory they had, they're reduced to this little spot on this map in Montana for a reservation. Ain't that sad?
Yeah, and you know what? When we traveled out west that time, we actually stopped there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because you can see
that's interesting. We
there's
stopped at that reservation.
well, that's cool. Yeah, and especially a small spot. Yeah, there's all these others, just Blackfoot and Crow, and over here, this is the Cheyenne one. When they were such a big tribe at one point in time, they really, you know, manned the plains, you could say. And here you go, northern. This is the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. You must have went through Billings, eh? Somewhere in
Yes,
that area. Yeah.
we
Okay.
spent the night in Billings, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I've been through the Fort Peck Indian Reservation, this one here, the Fort Belknap, and then over here to the I don't know if I've been through this reservation, but the what you call Glacier National Park's over this way. And I've been over to the Blackfeet Indian Reservation too. I think this is where the glacier is over this way, and then Bob Marshall Wilderness runs through here. Okay.
We didn't make it that far north. We went through the one on the bottom in green, or is that
Uh-huh.
blue? And
That's
then we got up towards Billings. Where you have to make a left and go. We went towards Idaho.
oh
Uh,
okay, yeah,
Whatever that interstate is that goes west. So we
yeah.
didn't make it that far north,
Okay.
but
Oh,
that was still interesting. And isn't Custer's last stand? There was some kind
yeah.
of battle that was near there.
Yes. The Battle of Little Bighorn, which was over in this area right over here.
Oh, I
Um,
see. Okay,
yeah.
I got a little screen with my cell phone, so
Yes. It's over that way. Okay, let me get on. The people, Cheyenne. What does the word Cheyenne mean? It was well, of course, they lived in the lower Mississippi, and they were found by a man, by a Frenchman, back in 1680, and he named them Cheyenne, which their original pronunciation, and I'm going to screw this up probably, is called Issuus, Ishtuus, I guess, which means the called out people. And then they relocated in eastern North Dakota and eastern Montana. So North Dakota and Montana area for the northern tribes. They speak an offshoot of Algonquin, which is similar to the Blackfoot and the Arapaho. Okay, so that's what I know about that. Now we're going to get into, we got a little bit of information here. Indians, the Cheyenne Indians, one of the Plains tribes, are Native American nations who own two reservations, one in southwestern Montana, where the Northern Cheyenne live, and one in Oklahoma, which is the home of the Southern Cheyenne and the Arapaho.
did you say owned?
Well, yeah, I suppose it'd be
No, I mean, is that how they word it?
which owns two reservations, I guess.
Okay,
That's what it says.
owned. Yeah. So the government allowed them to have it. They
Yeah,
owned
yeah.
it. Never
Yeah, but
mind. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting.
okay, yeah. See, the Cheyenne call themselves Tishusis, which means meant beautiful people. Oh, the called out people. I got that wrong. However, referred to them as Cheyenne, which means red talker or people with different speech. See, when you read different stuff, it means different things. See,
Yeah.
here we go. Well, the book I read it out of said it was the called out people, and here it says it's the red talkers. Huh. Anyway, the first recorded European contact with the Cheyenne Indians was in 1680. That's what I said. When French traders visited and when they were trapping, and they settled on the Red River, which became Minnesota, where they lived in villages and trapped and traded and farmed. Over time, they were displaced by Sioux, who were in turn being pushed farther west. The Cheyenne migrated across the plains to Wyoming in South Dakota near Black Hills. After coming west, they became a nomadic tribe who followed their movement of buffalo, which quickly became their primary food source. The tribe had a warrior caste system, which was based upon the age of men. Eventually, a caste known as the Dog Soldiers became so powerful that it ruled almost the entire Cheyenne Nation. Dissension between the castes gradually developed, and in 1832, the Cheyenne Indians divided into two groups, the Southern Cheyenne and the Northern Cheyenne. And the Northern Cheyenne faction stayed along the Platte Rivers. Also, the Southern group moved into western Kansas and eastern Colorado along the Arkansas River. Now, I did learn by my studies about the classes. And it turns out that there were like a tribe, say, I don't know how big it would have to be, but it would have to be, 100 people or something, for instance. So they would have three groups of different warriors in the group. One would be, so you have like one bunch of warriors would do a certain thing. They were probably in age groups or on skill levels, but there was usually three classes of warriors in each tribe, which helped them, along. Okay, through the Cheyenne did have occasional battles with the Sioux, Comanche, and the Kiowa, which the Indians were always battling somebody. They were fairly peaceful and willing to resume friendly relations with former enemies once fighting was over. As a general rule, the Cheyenne Indians did not fight with the white settlers until 1861. Angered by broken treaties and invasions into the land, they ceded to them. They joined neighboring tribes in attacking white settlements, wagon trains, and homesteads in a series of actions referred to as the Indian Wars. Of course, in September 1864, the Southern Cheyenne Indians met with Major Wynkoop and concluded a successful peace agreement which gave them the right to settle in southern Colorado. Chief Black Kettle withdrew his people to the area along the Sand Creek and set up a winter village to show that they were living under the terms of agreement. The chief posted both a white flag and an American flag at the village. In total disregard for peace negotiations, Colonel John Shivington of the Colorado Militia led 700 volunteers to the undefended village in what became known as the Sand Creek Massacre. Of course, furious over the betrayal of survivors joined the Dog Soldiers, who were more convinced that no treaty with the white man was possible. Northern Cheyenne, who had not participated in the earlier raids, joined Sitting Bull and the Sioux and fought the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And the time the Southern Cheyenne Indians were captured and forced into lands. Yes, the Sand Creek Massacre is what united all the tribes together.
And that's what led to the Battle at Little Bighorn.
Yes, it did. But it led to many battles. That was kind of like the final battle. But there was many battles. But the big thing that joined all the tribes, they realized, we can't make peace. This was horrible. These people signed the treaty, and then the white man went there and just killed them all, and then made, burned the village down and killed everybody, and on and on and on. And then the word spread like wildfire throughout all the Indian tribes. Like, wow, we signed a treaty, we camp ourselves out, we shake hands, we're all good, and then you just come in with a bunch of guys and kill us dead and burn our village down. That's not right. Okay, so furious over the betrayal, survivors joined the Dog Soldiers, who were convinced that they're. Okay, I think we get that. Okay, the Battle of Bighorn. In time, Southern Cheyenne Indians were captured and forced into lands in Oklahoma, where many died of malaria, starvation, and under the leadership of Chief Little Wolf and Chief Dull Knife, also called Chief Morningstar, a group of Cheyenne Indians left the southern reservation in an attempt to join the northern tribe. Most were captured and eventually killed, though a small band of survivors did manage to make it to Montana, where they were eventually granted reservation rights. Yeah, they were being, what happened was this Chief I read about him. Chief Dull Knife and Chief Little Wolf. Chief Little Wolf was a big guy. I guess he was big guy, real tough, good chief. And you know, they encouraged their people to go onto the reservation and make peace. And when they got to the reservation, life wasn't so good. You know, they didn't get good food, they didn't get good housing, they were starving to death. There was nothing to eat there. And so a lot of them were just leaving. They took their guns, they took their horses, they couldn't do anything. It was against the rules to leave the reservation, you know. And so here's you got all these people that went to the reservation to make peace. And what happened? They basically let you starve there.
They put you in jail with no food.
Yeah, I thought that this isn't probably true, but this is comical. I thought, yeah, this is kind of how it went, you know. Here's a stage. You know, I put this picture in here for a reason, and what reason is that? Is because the Indians were attacking these men, not because these guys did anything wrong to them, but more or less that the Indians were hungry. They were starving. The government didn't give them any, you know, the promises. They were taking their land. They were killing their buffalo. And these Indians were basically going out and trying to chase the white. This was their way of chasing the white people away. And, you know, they didn't care who they were fighting. They didn't know. They didn't have the comprehension. You know, these guys might not harm me, but, you know, I should be fighting these other guys. They just, look, they're white. Let's get them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I can honestly understand, because here you are, you know, your ancestors going back thousands of years have had this land. And then all of a sudden these white people show up and decide otherwise and claim rights to it. And, you know, I'd be going, what? You know, I'm sorry. Whether you're a white man or a red man, but everybody knows that if you're being run off of your house, you know, out of your home, you're going to have, you know, there might be repercussions.
Yes. They had, now we're going to go to the warrior side. The Cheyenne warrior. When going into battle, they would put on their best dressed clothes. Now, this here may be a Sioux warrior. Sioux warriors, I guess, wore a lot of necklaces and things like that. And whereas the Cheyenne would dress like in shirts like this. And they would have a war shirt, and they would put on war paint, and they would go in their finest attire into battle. And if I got a good, so, you know, when you see these guys and they're all dressed up like this, for instance, right? You know, we see these pictures of the Indian all dressed up. We talked about this once before, right? How they're all dressed up and their hair is braided and they got their best moccasins on and like they're going to Sunday fair, right?
Yes. Can I say what it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
They put on what they consider their regalia. It's their good clothes, but it's their spiritual clothes.
Yes. Now,
it's their regalia.
From what I read, it says that these guys run around with, you know, pretty much nothing on. But as soon as it's time to go to war, they would actually carry a little bag with, you know, all these good clothes, and they would throw this on. They would carry even maybe a little mirror in their package, and they would put on their war paint, braid their hair, put oil in it, dress in their best clothes because they didn't want to get killed and go to the spirit world not being dressed well. Ain't that crazy? But it's true.
But see, that's what I mean by their regalia, their spirit clothes.
Yes. So like this guy here, without the unless he had the face paint on, he would have these clothes, his hair braided, oil in his hair. He would be at his best looking, you know, heading into battle. And they would take the time to do that. Even, the warrior, the troops are coming. Well, put on your good shirt and your best moccasins, and away you go. Now, let's see, where do I want to go with this? Okay, so
To them, that was almost like putting on spiritual shielding.
yes.
Okay, I mean it's a big deal. I've got some things that is like my regalia, and so when if you want to be protected and you want the spirit behind you, you put it on. That's your sacred clothing.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Am I helping or making it worse?
No, you're doing fine. I think Scotty Boy's got exactly why he never leaves home without clean underwear. You do just what your mom said. I want to thank everybody while we're doing this. Susie Q, Scotty Boy, Share the Truth, Travis is in the house, B. Friedman, Mary Wins is doubling as Drumstead, and Witchy Moon and Elderberry. But anyway, okay. Hope I didn't miss anybody. And I know Nina's here and Off the Hook. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Anyway, so what happens here is these people, if they're going to battle, they're going to put on their best regalia. Now, I found out something really interesting. And that was, remember how we see these guys with their big headdresses on? Here we go. Here's the headdress guy. And we'll see the guy with the big headdress on. And how did they get the big headdress? When is it appropriate that they put this headdress, at least in this tribe? Okay, so I want your opinion. When do you think they put that? Who puts the headdress? Who gives them this headdress and the ability to put it on?
Oh, I don't know. Different tribes had different customs.
Yeah. Okay. So their custom was when you felt like it, you can put the headdress on. So if you feel like you're worthy of it, put the headdress on. And if you don't, you can put one feather in for your it said some would put like one feather for each kill they had. Some would just put on a big headdress like this and charge out in the battle because that's what they wanted to do. And unless they were not worthy of, if they weren't worthy of it and they were a coward or something, the other true warriors would come and knock it off of them, and say, hey, you're not worthy of this. And, don't be wearing it. But if you felt like you deserved to wear it, you just put it on, at least in their tribe. Anyway.
Well, and something else is that there are short headdresses that come just about to the shoulder. And then there are some that are really long. And so some tribes and some folks cherish the longer headdress. And but I got to say that having worked with things in the past, if there was a bird that was killed and you had all these feathers and you were building a headdress, you'd want to go ahead and use all the feathers. And that might mean that the sucker comes all the way down, to the middle of your chest,
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. So when it boils down to it, they dress in fancy clothes for fighting to go to their death. Because, you never know when you're going to get killed. And they want to look good. They have a shirt, pants, moccasins. They paint their face, braid their hair, oil and braid their hair even. Okay. Learning. When does an Indian learn to hunt? He starts hunting when he's 5 or 6, believe it or not. Let's see. Okay. Well, anyway, they use.
All right. Let me add something. That if they're 5 or 6, they're learning how to to hunt rabbits and small game, by the way,
Well, yeah. I mean, heck, when I was
and
5 and
set
6,
traps.
well, yeah. Well, I know when I was 5 and 6, I was learning to hunt nothing. I, I was learning at that age. I was lucky to hunt for my toys in the toy box. But as they grow up, they start hunting. But here's a guy. He's all dressed up. Now he have his war bonnet on. He's got his shield, arrows, and bow. Now we're going to talk about the arrows and bow a little bit, real quick. Is that going on a buffalo hunt, for instance? They would, even if they had guns, they still used arrows. Why would they use arrows? Do you know this one?
Oh, you're asking me? No.
No? Okay. Here's the scoop on the arrows.
Save ammunition.
Well, that a little bit. Yeah, ammunition was hard to come by. But here's the thing. When you're out there hunting the buffalo, if you shoot them with arrows, each arrow that you shoot, you made, which means it's color coded or, in your style. So each Indian had his own arrow, basically with his own name tag on it. And then when you killed the buffalo, even though your buddy shot the buffalo 10 times with his arrows, your shot's the one that killed the buffalo, and they would see that arrow and say, that's your kill. So that's how they kept track of who killed what and who gets what, because, your arrow is the one that, knocked that buffalo down, actually killed it, not a Wounded Knee over there or a dull knife. It's your arrow that killed the buffalo. So that's your buffalo. You see what I'm saying?
And yes, and also some tribes were like, okay, yours might have killed it, but there are 5 other arrows. That means that 5 other people can get 5 other pieces of the buffalo.
Well, yeah,
But
yeah, but
the guy that kills it, he doesn't get the whole buffalo because the other warriors were, it was a group thing. So, there would get us, 5 slices or whatever,
yeah.
so
Oh,
that
I get it.
they
But
got 5 smaller shares of the buffalo.
well, the guy who does the kill, he's the one that gets first dibs on it. So like I was
Right.
reading about, they killed a guy, right? They were fighting a white man, and this guy kills the white man, and all the other Indians had tried to kill him too, and their arrows were sticking in him, but this one was the one that actually killed him, and they called him over and said, you killed him, so now you get first dibs on his things. So he goes in and he got to pick out what he wanted off of that guy. If it was a scalp or whatever, he took some tobacco, and he took his rifle and the ammunition, and that's what he got off of that guy. And then after that, the other ones could have their fair pickings, so that's kind
Right.
of how it went. So I thought that was kind of interesting on how those things happen. I didn't know that. Even though they had guns, they had very little ammunition. They had very, because they couldn't just go out and buy it. And if you got 10 shells, you got 10 shots and you're done. So they use these spears. You see how this guy's using a spear? They use spears and arrows and all kinds of stuff to kill the buffalo versus, and
that was real hunting.
yeah, that was real hunting.
That takes skill.
It does. And this is kind of funny because I was reading in there about these Indians. So it's wintertime, right? And the 2 guys go out to go for a hunt, and they have it's winter. They have moccasins on. They have leggings, which means that there's no butt in their pants. And they just have a light, just a buckskin shirt on, and they're trudging through snow in the wintertime that's knee deep. And I thought, if this was us nowadays and we don't have insulate, gloves, a big parka coat,
Yeah.
insulated pants, and we ain't going outside.
Yeah.
And
Years ago, when I was doing a powwow in Tullahoma, Tennessee, um, uh, in November for Veterans Day, and that year there was sleet, and the snow was going sideways, and the high for the day was like 28,
yeah,
and there was barely anybody there at the powwow. But
uh-huh,
there was this gentleman that I got a chance to speak with, who said that he was a, 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 a great grandson of oh, of God, Crazy Horse.
hmm,
But anyway, he's walking around in this shirt sleeve shirt kind of thing. It was like buckskin, but and that was it. And now
yeah,
I'm bundled up in a big, parka and a thing over my ears, and I'm like, aren't you cold? And he said, nah, this is nothing. You should go to South Dakota, And I was
yeah,
like, really? So, but anyway, but he
hmm,
he was used to the cold, but almost nothing on, amazing.
yeah. Exactly. They didn't need much. You know, they didn't have much, and the cold. I don't know how they did it, but apparently we are capable of way more than
Yes,
um,
we are.
what
Yes,
the
we
Indians.
are.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
to stop a second, and a lot of folks have seen, a movie of something of the monks in the Himalayas or in the mountains, and they're walking around in little saffron kind of, robes and in sandals, and they ain't got no heavy duty clothes on, and you get used to it. Your
yeah,
body will actually get, acclimated to it. So,
yes, yes. Here's another thing that I didn't know. Okay, now the Indians used like a rope, a braided leather rope bridle. They would take braided leather as a rope and then we somehow spin it around and make it into a bridle. And if your horse fell in battle and you didn't take that bridle off of that horse, you were considered a coward, believe it or not. Which meant that if you come back without your rope bridle from your downed horse, you were looking for a beating from all the other Indians as punishment. Believe it or not. Um, let's see. I'm just going by my notes. So, like in 1876, uh, during the Battle of Little Bighorn or Greasy Grass or whatever you want to call it, we think, oh, the Indians had all these guns and stuff. They didn't. Most of them had arrows. They were all mostly using arrows, 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 arrows. They were not using guns. They once they killed the troops off, they went ahead and took all their guns as prizes and the bullets because that was valuable. Um, okay, let's see. Here we go. Here's a
and something else too, that if you missed, you could retrieve it. But if you
yeah.
think about it, where did all them arrows come from? I mean, because out there on the plains, especially in Montana, up and through there, arrows require trees or something, you
Well,
know.
the thing is an arrow you could make out of a small piece of brush, a little branch on a willow tree down by or a cottonwood of any sort. There's a lot of branches on it and one tree. It makes a lot of arrows. You know what I mean?
Well, it
And
depends on the tree, and but to the point though, you gotta have the materials to make them arrows. That's
So,
basically where I was going.
oh yeah. Well, speaking of that, I was reading about the arrows and stuff, and actually having arrows was kind of an advantage in some ways. So, like the Indians they said, could sit behind the hillside, right, and be protected, and without getting up. You know how you get up and you shoot your arrow. You know what I'm talking about. Um, so like when you shoot your arrow, you do this, right? You pull back and you shoot your arrow at your target. And when you shoot a gun, you get there and you aim, and you have to have a line of sight to hit your target, correct? But the Indians knew that if you sat behind the hill and you just took your arrow up in the air and you shot it, that it would go up and it would come down on the head of your enemy. You could literally hide behind the hill, whereas when you got a gun, you have to be in the line of sight in order to hit something.
Sort of like a mortar.
Yes. So
Because well, mortars were used back in the days of the Chinese, where they just lobbed a cannonball over a hill. So
yeah,
yeah, that
and that's what,
same idea.
same idea. Yeah. So while they hid behind the hill, they could launch hundreds and hundreds of arrows at the troops that were, hiding or barricaded themselves, or they were trying to get away from the arrows. The arrows would just come raining down like rain on them, and they're bound to get hit by something in the leg or the arm, or once you got hit by an arrow, you're out of commission, kind of. You know what I mean? You're hurting. So,
And so even the forts, you could be inside the fort and running to go get some ammunition, and an arrow come over and hit you in the back, and that'd be that.
yeah, because you're not protected. The arrow's just coming out of the sky. You don't know where it is. You can't be looking up in the sky waiting for that arrow. You're just running and hoping that you don't get hit. So, like I said, here's a bunch of different Indian chiefs. I don't know who's who, but they were big Indian chiefs. It's amazing how far cameras go back. See, that's why I said it. The history goes back to where we can actually look at these Indian chiefs that had the great battles, who lived on the plains back in the day, with the roaming of the buffalo and the living in a teepee growing up and stuff. And here they are, so we can look at them and see who they were. It's amazing. It's like peering back in time. That's all I can say. I mean, time. Can you imagine a time before cell phones and roads and people and houses everywhere, and living like this? And these guys in these pictures are, still, they were living in the modern era when, yeah, kind of crazy, huh?
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you what, to live like that takes a lot of chutzpah.
Well, yeah, but if you don't,
It's not for the faint of heart,
yeah, but if you don't know any better, that just seems normal. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, think about it. The way you live, and then some guy who lives in a high rise in New York and has everything delivered to him, and he has the best of the best of the best. He's going to look at you and think you live like a caveman.
Yes, I do. I live like a caveman. It's true. It's like I got my little heater on over here, and I haven't felt very well the last few days, but I got some wood over here, and I need to build a fire. It's going to be 40 tonight.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so no, I couldn't live I couldn't live like that. Well, same here. I couldn't live in an apartment that's got filtered air. It makes me it clogs me up. I can't breathe. That's weird. So
Yeah. Okay. So why do I have this picture? And remember how we were talking? I did a lot of reading on this subject for these people, this week, but it was talking about how these Indians, these braves, were going after, and they were fighting different tribes and white men and so forth and so on, right? Now, a lot of the stories that you read in these myths and legends talk about how, so and so did this, and then he chopped off his head, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of head chopping.
And a lot of the stories were talking about how they captured the guy and they chopped off his feet, they chopped off his head, they chopped off his hands, and they threw his body on a pile of wood and burned him until there was nothing left but ashes. And I'm like, oh my God, they even gutted him and took out his heart and entrails and stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, how cruel is that? But see, and the same guy that was talking about all of this, that chopped off the guy's head and his arms and his feet and whatever, right, was talked about how he got sick when he was in a battle and he seen some guy's jaw get shot off. And so, the guy's basically his jaw got shot off and the guy's wandering around like he's drunk. And he said it was the grossest thing and almost, made him sick. And I'm thinking in my head, you seen some guy's jaw got shot off, but yet didn't make you sick when you chopped the guy's hands and feet and his head and took his entrails out, and then you put it on a fire and burned it. You didn't have a problem with that. So
must have looked like a zombie.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't figure it out. But anyway, when I seen this picture, I thought, oh yeah, here you go. I'm going to chop your hand off, and you can see the blood coming out. This guy looks like he's got a gun. He's going to shoot him, or maybe they got knives. He's got a hatchet in one hand and a knife in the other, and they're fighting for it. And that's kind of how it's going.
It's one thing. Getting shot and killed is one thing. Getting hit with an arrow is one thing. But getting hacked to death, that's a whole nother level of something,
Well, that and the fact that if you're in a fight and they chop your hand off, you could still be alive, man. They chop your foot off, your hands off, and then and everything but your head. You could be living through all that pain and suffering.
Yeah, you can stick your arm in a fire and cauterize that sucker. Yeah, you sure can.
Yeah, talk about pain and suffering.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, there were a lot of guys after the Civil War that had hands and limbs and stuff, and that's basically how they treated them.
Yep. I know. All that. There's the teepees and stuff. But yeah, living in a teepee down by the riverfront. Probably better tent stuff than tents than they have nowadays at Walmart, from Walmart. That's for sure. So,
yeah. No, wait. Go back to those teepees, please, for a minute.
Yes.
Do you see how neat and there? It doesn't look like there's any seams. Now that's a painting, right?
No, that looks real. I think this is canvas, of course. This is canvas. That's
no, but I'm telling you, I have put up and taken down teepees, and their outsides don't look that smooth. It's how they sew the canvas to make that cone shape when you put it up.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't see any seams. So nope. Usually the seams kind of go up, almost up and around it in a spiral.
Yeah.
So anyway, just something that I noticed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember that. I had a teepee with a guy, and we put it up and stuff a number of times. And then there was this big flap in the front, and then there was a flap on the top. There was two sticks up here, and then it came out like that. It was a little bit different than what these look like. So, but anyway, yeah, it was cool. And on the bottom, it had two flaps, one inside and one on the outside. And where you see this here it never did sit really flat with the ground. There was always like an inch or so above the ground. And then, so the air, when you're burning your fire inside, would come out the chimney. So you're basically in a chimney. The air would come through here.
Yeah.
When you burn your fire, it'd come out the top.
And also there was an inside, what did they call it? An inside thing that went all the way around the inside, so that little bit of airspace didn't bother you, or just blow right through.
Yeah,
so
another flap
it was like a curtain that went in all the way around.
Yes, exactly. There was a little curtain thing. And then, like, we had one, and it had a doorway thing on it. There was some kind of thing in front of the door, like a little hallway almost. I don't remember what it was, but and then like here in the front, there was like sticks that tied the whole thing together. There might be sticks here too, but you can't see them. I don't know, but anyway, that's the way it was. But
yeah, the door is weaved closed with sticks.
Yes, that's how we had it. It was a thing with the stick doorway. But the chimney, there was a flap that went here, and there was a flap that went there, and then you couldn't really see. It wasn't like this, wasn't big and open like that one. So anyway, either way,
those teepees there are some big teepees.
Yeah, they are. All right, well, that does it for me. I hope I wanted to talk about Indians. The Indians liked games. I didn't realize that Indians liked games. I mean, we read about the lacrosse and stuff like that they did, but they did horse games. They did all kinds of different things, races and stuff like that, but with other tribes. And they did a lot of betting and gambling. So even though the tribes may be at war and stuff or disagree, they would come to a spot and they would play games and bet on each other, and they would bet, horses and blankets and teepees and women and you name it. They were gambling son of a guns. Everything from wrestling matches to horse races. So there you go. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed that and a little bit of my presentation on the Cheyenne people. So,
well, I want to file a complaint.
What did I do?
You presented a cliffhanger.
What do you mean? Cliffhanger. I did, didn't I? Yes, I did.
Yeah, do you know what it was?
Well, whatever happened to them all, maybe. But what it is,
I want to go back to when you said that there were 3 types of something, 3 types of warriors.
Yes, and I'm going to follow up with that.
Wait, hang on. You were 3 types of warriors, and then that was that. I was like, wait, hang on. What kind were they? What did they do? What were their job titles?
Well, we were talking about.
You gave there was a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, well, you know about the dog soldiers, right? But it's going to follow up with that. And like it says, I'm going to do a little follow up on it, and we're going to present all of that information with the next one when we come up with the Little Bighorn, the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And that is going to be where we're going to expose all that stuff, because each tribe was a little bit different. But like I said, the Cheyenne had 3 groups, and they had different names for each one. I suppose it varied on what tribe it was or what it was.
Well, can I give a little interjection in it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, for example, in any tribe or group or whatever, some folks are better than others. There are some folks that are better with archery, and so these folks might, stay in the background and on behind the hill. You know what I mean? There are some folks who are better at, being sneaky. So you've got, folks that are the sneaky group. You've got some folks that are big and tough with a spear, and then you got, so the different levels are the different. What do you call it?
What
talents within the
talent? Yes,
within the group. So they
yeah,
all, learned how to shoot. They all had bows and arrows, but sometimes, the chief would say, "Okay, we're going to send the runners out." Then there were those that went between they were scouts, and then there were those runners who brought messages back and forth. So that anyway, those are just an example of the different levels within the tribe and warriors.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's different. I'm going to find out more about those levels, and I'll be coming back. But we're going to be doing. I'm going to do one on the Little Bighorn, because that's where, after that battle of at the creek there, and they decimated Black Kettle's village. That's what turned all the warriors inward, and then they came together as a big group. And I don't want to have the cliffhanger there, but there were so many tribes and hundreds of Indians, and I'm going to give a really good account of who was there, what tribes there were, and who was the leader of all those tribes, and what did they call him. So we'll find that out soon enough. That might be a two-parter.
Stay tuned next time, same bat channel.
That's right. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. We're going to have all the big chiefs in there. Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse. We're going to have, what's his name? Red. I can't remember. Anyway, all those good guys. My escapes my
I
mind.
know I'm kind of, but just as in passing, it took a lot for them all to get together back then.
Yes, because
It really took a lot for everybody to make arrangements to travel there, to conglomerate. It took a lot back then. They had to send messengers out. They had to, and the fact that they coordinated things to within in a couple of days. They met up without any kind of telegraph or anything like that. And they were traveling long distances on horseback, and just it's amazing to me. But anyway, I'm sorry.
The bad part is that they were traveling, but oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say after you were telling all this stuff. You lost my train of thought here now.
I'm sorry.
But yeah. Anyway, the important part is that they were brought together. I remember what it was. I think myself personally, it was extremely difficult for all those tribes to come together and not fight amongst themselves. Because remember, for hundreds of years, they've been fighting over territory and buffalo, and you came here, I scalped your brother. Yeah, I killed your uncle. Your uncle killed my father. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And now we're all going to meet up under one cause, and I'm going to be friends with you. I'm going to, get along with you. I'm not going to go over to your tent over there, your teepee, and I'm not going to burn it down and scalp you in the middle of the night.
Yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That's right.
And so that's what I mean. It took a lot, not only to congregate, but for them to, bury the hatches, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. All right. What do you got for us tonight?
Well, we got one that's called Partridge and Turtle and Their Cousins Wolves.
Whew, sounds like a good one.
All right, I'll wait till you get it trod up there, and give me a half a second. Oh, there it is.
I'm working my magic.
I don't know how long this story is. I didn't look. Normally, I peruse it before I start. Here, what is it again? So you ready there, Bob?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay.
Ready as I'll ever be.
Partridge and Turtle and their cousins wolves. Two brothers, Partridge and Turtle, lived together. Wolves, their cousins, lived in a house not too far away. One day, Old Man Wolf said, "You had better all go out hunting." They started off going toward the east in Indian file. After a time, they said, "We will separate and each man will go where he likes. If anyone sees game, he can call out." As Turtle was going along, he came to a log that he couldn't get over, so he called out. Partridge heard him and, running up to see what game he had found, asked, "What is it?" Turtle said, "I can't get over this log. It is so high." "But you shouldn't call out," said Partridge. "The men might think that you had found game. Don't call out again unless you find game." And catching Turtle by the leg, he threw him over the log. Again, Turtle came to a log and couldn't get over, so he cried out for help. Partridge ran up and, seeing what the trouble was, caught Turtle by the leg and threw him over as hard as he could, saying, "The next time you come to a log, you go around it." "But," said Turtle, "our leader told us to go straight ahead, and I did as he said." "Well, don't be afraid. Go around the log the next time," answered Partridge. After that, Turtle went around the logs. Soon he came to a river, and near the river he saw a tree loaded with plums. Some of the plums had fallen to the ground. Turtle had on a bark apron. He gathered it up, bag shape, and filled it with plums. While he was eating and looking around, he saw Elk coming. When near where Turtle stood, Elk said, "Brother, will you give me some of those plums?" "No, I am a great deal smaller than you are. I can't knock them off of the tree as easily as you can." "How do you knock them off?" "I'll tell you. I'll go as far away as I can and see them, then run very fast to the tree and strike my head against it." "Did you do that?" "Yes, it hurts, but not for very long. You can do the same way and you'll knock off a great many plums." Elk went some distance, then running as fast as he could, struck his head against the tree. The blow threw him back and he couldn't get up. Turtle dropped his plums and, jumping onto Elk, caught him by the neck and choked him to death. Then he called out loudly. Partridge came running up and asked, "What have you done now?" "I'm a man. I've killed an elk." Partridge was glad and asked, "How can we hide this from our cousins? They are great eaters and would soon finish this meat. But you and I are small people. We could live on this a long time. If we could find a hollow tree, we could hide the meat in it. While I am hunting for the tree, you go to our cousins and borrow a knife. If they ask why you want the knife, tell them that you are going to dig mushrooms." "No," said Turtle. "You must go. You can fly." "If I go, they will track me and find out what we are doing." Partridge flew over to where wolves were hunting. They asked, "What luck have you had?" Partridge tried to answer, but he stuttered. He couldn't get out a single word. "What makes you stutter?" asked his cousins. "You are frightened. Have you done something bad?" Again, Partridge tried to speak, but couldn't. "Let him alone," said Old Man Wolf. "He'll tell after a while." Now Partridge stood up straight, his eyes wide open, and tried to say knife, but he stuttered out something like spear. He had made up his mind to say that he was going to cut his brother's hair. "Do you want a spear?" asked Old Wolf. "No, knife." "Well, give him a knife," said Old Wolf. Partridge took the knife, and going back to where Turtle was, the two cut up the elk and carried it, piece by piece, to a hollow tree that Turtle had found. Then they camped in the tree. When cold came, Old Wolf said, "I wonder where our cousins are. Maybe they have starved to death. We must try to find them." Several of the wolves started. After traveling a long distance, they saw smoke coming out of a hollow tree. They went back and said, "We have found Turtle and Partridge. They are living in a hollow tree far off in the woods." Old Wolf said, "Go to the tree and find out what they're doing." When the men came to the tree, they saw many bones. Partridge had told Turtle not to throw bones out. If he did, wolves would scent them. But Turtle had disobeyed him. When wolves saw the bones, they said, "This is why Partridge was so frightened when he came to borrow a knife. They killed a deer and have eaten it up without giving us any." Before this, the cousins had always shared with one another. "Now we'll cut the tree down, kill Turtle and Partridge, and eat them." They set to work, and soon the tree began to bend over. Turtle saw what his cousins were doing, and he screamed, "Let the tree be large! Let the tree be large!" The tree grew quickly and caught onto another tree. The wolves began to chop the second tree. Again, Turtle screamed, "Let the tree be large!" And it caught to a third tree. They began to cut the third tree, thinking that all the trees would fall at the same time. Now Turtle asked Partridge, "Can you carry me in your skirt?" "I can try. Maybe I can if you hold on tight when I fly." Partridge flew off, and Turtle held on to his shirt till he was too tired to hold on any longer. Then he fell, and wolves who had followed said, "Now we'll punish him." "What will you do to him?" asked one. "Roast him?" "You can roast me," said Turtle, "but you'll never have a fire again. I'll put it out forever." Wolf said, "Maybe he could do that. Let's chop him to pieces." "You can if you want to," said Turtle, "but you'll never have a sharp knife again. My back is made of bone." "That's true," said Wolves. "We'll take a mallet and pound him to death." "Yes, pound me to death, but you will have a mallet, but never again will you have a mallet." Now Old Wolf spoke up and said, "I know how to kill him. Drag him to the lake and throw him in." Turtle began to cry and to beg, saying, "I shall die if you throw me into the water." He cried so hard that they agreed that this was the way to kill him. They dragged him to the lake and threw him in. Then they sat down on the bank to see him drowned. Soon Turtle stuck up his head and seeing wolves called out, "You are fools! Didn't you know that water is my home?" Wolves were so angry that they sent for an elk to come and drink up the water. But when Elk had drunk the lake dry, they couldn't find Turtle. He had buried himself in the mud. There was nothing to be done. Elk threw up the water, and the wolves went home. After a long time, Turtle was one day out hunting, and he met a wolf. Wolf began to make fun of Turtle's short legs, told him he oughtn't to go where people could see him, that he was so ugly. Turtle looked at Wolf and said, "Well, if I have short legs, I can beat you running. Notify your people, and I'll notify mine. And tomorrow we will run a race." Wolf was greatly pleased, and he came next day with all his friends. Now Turtle had stationed 6 of his friends, all of the same size, and each with a white feather in his headdress, at certain places along the course. At the starting, Wolf let Turtle far behind, and turning, he called out, "Why don't you come on?" But when Wolf was some distance along, he heard Turtle call, "Why don't you come on?" And looking, saw him ahead. Wolf passed him and then turned and shouted, "Why don't you run faster?" The third turtle came up ahead of Wolf and called, "You'll be beaten if you don't run faster." So on to the 6th turtle. As soon as Wolf passed, the turtle would hide in the ground and another turtle spring up ahead of Wolf. Now the turtle people sent up a shout of victory. Turtle had reached the goal and beaten Wolf. Wolf told Turtle, "Hereafter you and your people can live on the hills, and I and my people will live in the woods." And so it is. At this time, partridges, wolves, and turtles, from being people, became what they are now. The end.
Oh,
That's
that was a good one.
yeah, nope.
That's like a new thing to the hare and the tortoise. I never thought of that. It wasn't just one turtle, it was multiple turtles.
Yeah, lined them up. Yep. There's another story that I'd heard that there were 4 turtles and they were like running around a circle, and so there was one in each, at each quarter like a pie.
Yep. Oh, cards for tonight. Scotty boy looks like he's eaten turtle before. Who's the brains behind the pack? 13 months.
And our card for tonight, number 14, is dog. Loyalty. Haven't pulled the dog card in a while.
No.
Dog, you are so noble until the bitter end. Your medicine is the teaching of true and loyal friends. All of the Southwest and Plains Indian tribes had dogs. These noble animals would often give warning signals of approaching danger. They helped in the hunt and were a great source of warmth on long winter nights. Since the canine tribe has many breeds, early Indian dogs were usually half wild. This wildness, however, never divested the owners of their dog's innate loyalty. Dog has been considered the servant of humanity throughout history. If a person carries dog medicine, he or she is usually serving others or humanity in some way. Here you will find the charity worker, the philanthropist, the nurse, the counselor, and the minister, and the soldier. Dog was the servant soldier that guarded the tribe's lodges from surprise attack. Dog is a medicine and embodies the loving gentleness of best friend and the half wild protector energy of territorial imperative. Like Anubis, the jackal dog protector of Egypt, Dog is a guardian. Throughout history, Dog has been the guardian of hell, as well as of ancient secrets, hidden treasures, and babies. While mothers were cooking or in the fields, Dog honors its gifts and is loyal to the trust placed in its care. If Dog has been yelled at or paddled, it still returns love to the owner. Turn the page. It's not from stupidity, but rather from a deep and compassionate understanding of human shortcomings. Dog medicine asks you to look at how readily your sense of loyalty actually is, and is countermanded by your need for approval. If you pulled the dog card, there are several questions you need to consider. Have I recently forgotten that I owe my allegiance to my personal truth in life? That's interesting. Is it possible that gossip or the opinions of others have jaded my loyalty to a certain friend or group, or maybe a spiritualness? Have I denied or ignored someone who is trying to be my loyal friend? Have I been loyal and true to my goals in life? Now, the contrary, Dog may be telling you that you have become critical or mean due to the company you are keeping. The reversal of this medicine could also imply that it is time to stop cowering in fear. There's a lot of fear out there right now. And stop cowering with fear, and time to begin to tackle the adversities, your adversaries of your confidence. The key is to realize that these are not external enemies, but thought forms in your own mind which tell you that you are not worthy of loyalty. They want me to read that again. The key is to realize that these are not external enemies, but thought forms in your own mind. In other words, you dream this stuff up, which tell you you're not worthy of loyalty. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough time, whatever it is, either to yourself or to others. You may want to examine the patterns of disloyalty in your life. Do you, for example, pass on gossip or not speak up when someone else is rumor mongering? Do you make jokes and belittle others? Do you refuse to return kindness? These are characteristics of fear, and particularly of a fear that is common to the human. Reclaim your power of loyalty to self and self-truth. Become like Dog. Be your own best friend. And that's the message for today.
That's right. Be your own best friend. I love it.
Yeah, loyalty. You know, I know that, like during Thanksgiving, me and some friends, I don't know if we talked about it or not, but tradition, you know, to have a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, to get together as a tradition for Thanksgiving or for Christmas. There are people who are like, well, traditionally we've gone to grandma's house, or traditionally we've done this. And now it doesn't seem like tradition matters anymore. And in a
Yeah.
way, that's sort of like loyalty. It's loyalty to go back to stick with the tradition, I guess. But anyway, my 10 cents.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Things have changed. Um, you know, uh, and as they change, eventually people will want that back again. It's cycles. It's always cycles. You know, I mean, traditions have changed for hundreds of years, and they'll keep changing. And pretty soon, people will demand that again. Be like, hey, I want to have friends over, or I want to have a Christmas dinner or something, or maybe I'll make my own new traditions.
Well,
Maybe
and
I'll have everybody over and we'll play Monopoly on Fridays or something, once a year, and have a big Monopoly party. I don't know.
yeah, well, it's like the Catholic Church. There are a lot of folks that want to go back to the original Latin Mass, and
Yeah.
they want to go back to the original tradition, the
Yes.
traditional Mass. And there's a bunch of arguments within the Catholic Church. There's a schism going on because of it. And I would go to a Catholic Mass if it went back to a Latin Mass,
Yeah.
because this new stuff is just phooey. But so anyway, but
Oh, yes.
folks, really, there are some folks seem to want to reach out and depend on and cling to traditions,
Hmm.
and others just doesn't seem like they care at all.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I said, eventually it'll morph into something, and people will want to get back to a tradition because people are comfortable in patterns. There's a lot of people out there that have a tradition. If you get up every morning and have a cup of coffee, that's a tradition. You don't have a cup of coffee, you might be grumpy. You do the same thing over and over. You go to work and you have the same pattern, you take the same road, that's kind of a tradition in a weird sort of way, but people like doing that same pattern. People feel comfortable at it. It's like it'd be like coming home every night and saying, "Well, I'm going to sleep in a different spot on the floor because it's different." No, you like to go and curl up in your own bed with your own blankets and your own pillow, and it makes you happy and feel good, right?
Yep.
And it'll come back to that, just like. But I think the church probably knows that if we go back to Latin masses, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to come because half the young people don't know anything about Latin. It just is gibberish to them. They don't understand the words. Why am I going to go and I don't know what the guy's saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there are certain parts of that. When I say the Latin Mass and the traditional, there are still parts in that they want to leave English. So, but the new Mass where they're doing all the clapping and the hallelujah and singing, nah, they don't want that.
Yeah.
No, they want to go back to the priest, saying his stuff and the altar boys, and so, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
No,
I
no, and
I was an altar boy. I used to have to get up at 5:30 and ride my bicycle in for 6 o'clock mass to be an altar boy, and that was brutal as a child.
yeah, yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing is and there'll be breakoffs just like there is now. You got all these different churches, Baptist, Lutheran, Catholic, Methodist, and on and on and on and on. They're all reading from the same darn Bible, pretty much. They believe in the same God. They just have all that. Well, they didn't. You go to the Baptist church, they sing a lot. If you go to the Catholic church, they kneel a lot. If you go to the, am I wrong? you know, but that's
No,
where they
I'd never heard anybody. That's just
well,
funny how you
I
explained it.
I've been to them all. I went to each one of them, and you know, the Lutheran is really close to the Catholic, but they don't kneel. You know, you go to the Methodist, it's really close to the Lutheran, but they don't, you know, do all the praying stuff or whatever. And then you go to the Baptist, they sing a lot, and then they do, you know, what do you call it? They like to have a lot of potluck. You know, everybody get together and eat. So
Yeah.
anyway, singing and eating, that's what they're all about. And it might not be everywhere, but anyway, the ones I remember. But like I said, it's each one's got their thing. And like you said, if people want a Latin mass, somebody will break off with a new church saying this is Latin mass church. Who knows? I'm just making it up as I go. And there'll be people that show up. Me,
Well,
I'm
it
thinking,
just shows that there are some people who respect tradition.
yeah,
And that one of the things that, I got away from the church was because it had split off into this ungodly, unrecognizable to me, Catholic Church. So, and so everybody was like, oh, this change is good, but not everybody has gone along with it. So they say, okay, so the Latin folks say, go ahead. If you want to do your mass, you go right on ahead, but we just prefer the old style. That's
mm-hmm.
all. We
Yeah,
prefer the classic Coke,
that's right.
if you will.
I know Scotty boy. I think he's thinking in his mind right now. They should have a no pants church, and then roasted pig and cracking a beer. That's probably what he's thinking. Yeah, anyway, yeah, pig in the ground saying aloha. That's probably what it is. That'll get everybody. If people come to that, pants optional church. I'm going to come up with a new one called the Table God Church. Yeah, there you go. Come leave your donations on the table, and God will bless you. There you go. Oh boy. I'm just having fun with it now. He says 100%. 100%. There you go. 100%. Sign me up. Yeah, there he is, right on it. My friend got married at a church. They had a Latin Sunday mass each week. I believe they had 4 masses on Sunday, 2 on Saturday, and daily mass. I tell you what, that preacher was really getting busy. Holy cow, he was working it. So anyway, so what do you got going on? You gonna have a show tonight? Or are you up for it, or what?
I don't know. I have not felt well the last few days and almost ended up in the ER, and that's still not off the table yet. So we'll see.
Well,
I'm having trouble breathing, and I got some bug over Saturday night, Sunday, and I'm still suffering from it, But anyway,
just
but
take
I'm
it easy.
every day I keep getting older, and every day something else is a little more difficult to deal with. But I keep wanting to cheer folks on and don't give up, don't give in.
Yeah. Well, just take care and take it easy, get some rest. I'm sure
I'll
when
do
you get
that.
better, you'll have a show, and we'll all be there, and hopefully you'll be back next week. See,
Yeah, I hope so. I hope to be back this week.
well, Chloe's got it. Love you. Take care. Take care. There you go. And, so yeah, I'll be back on Saturday. We're going to be talking about Jesus, Mary, and Joseph for the holidays. And was Mary, Joseph, and why did they call him Jesus when they said, what are you going to name him? Emmanuel. And then it got changed to Jesus. What's up with that? So who was this guy? Anyway, so that's Saturday's show. And maybe we'll have a few shorts in there. I'm finally getting my studio together here. As you notice, the lighting's getting better, the timing's getting better. I'm finally getting dialed in over here. But anyway, it's getting cold out. Winter's right around the corner, I tell you.
Yeah, well, it looks good and sounds good so far, so keep up the good work.
Well, thanks. Let's see. I don't get sick. I go right for the diseases. There you go. Go big or go home. Anyway, well, thank you all for coming. Everybody's been here. B. Freeman, Off the Hook, Chloe. She's probably at work. But anyway, Off the Hook, B. Freeman, Elderberry, Church of the Golden Bud, he says. Lucky Stone, Travis is in the house. And who did I miss? Witchy Moon and No, Resting My Eyes and Good Stuff. There you go. Thank you for coming. I haven't seen you in a while. There you go.
Thank you all as usual for coming and hanging out with us. We love you.
Oh, we even had Big Justin was here tonight. He's having all kinds of issues. Big Justin, like Big Justin drops in. Okay, well, Unacceptable Living was here tonight. Thank you, Unacceptable Living in left field. So there you go. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, it was a little shorter show today, but that's all right because I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to get up early and things to do. So, well, I appreciate it so much. Remember, everybody, 'tis the season to go out, be nice to your neighbor, be nice to yourself. Remember the dog card.
Right. Loyalty to yourself and maybe to others.
Yeah, it's such a good way to do it. And with all of that, what does that point to? It's pointing to be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. Peace, everybody. Love y'all.